Sup everyone, Cat Goblin or Martin here, and I'm back with another enemy review for another Scooby Doo game, and that game being Scooby Doo Unmasked. Yeah, I've had this game for quite some time, and I haven't gotten around to playing it until a little recently, and I must say this is a pretty solid Scooby Doo game, much better than Mystery Mayhem, which was made by the same developers as this game, although to me, Night of 100 Frights will always be the best Scooby Doo game of all time. Anyhow, Unmasked is one of those adventure/platformer games where you find a lot of stuff and progress through levels in an open hub. It reminds me a lot of games like Sly Cooper, Super Mario Sunshine, Super Monkey Ball Adventure, and A Hat in Time. Surprisingly, this game actually doesn't have a lot of enemies, which kind of surprised me because every other Scooby Doo game I talked about on this channel has tons. But without further delay, let's get into the enemies, starting with some key facts. The enemies in Unmasked are all special effects animatronics with a mubber outer layer that gives them their appearance, and they come from Stanton's company, Monstrous Fright and Magic. Yeah, this game gives me a lot of FNAF vibes. But anyways, most of the enemies have a ranged attack, either a stomp shockwave, breathing out fire, or throwing projectiles. Some enemies can hit you away when you get too close to them. There's a few enemies that are a little bit more agile and can leap away to try to flank you. Then midway through the game, you'll encounter enemies with more health that can shield themselves, making them invincible to regular attacks for a brief moment. All enemies can take away one dog tag of health, and they drop pieces of mubber when hitting and defeating them, which can be super helpful to get a costume or an ingredient for more HP. Enemies can be seen as inactive, they can pop out of boxes with the MFM logo, drop down from out of nowhere, and a few can spawn in from these big animatronic dispensers which you can destroy for more mubber. Defeating enemies is quite simple. You can use your main spin attack, but the best way is probably your slam, roll, and slide attacks, as they are stronger and can knock enemies off their feet, making them vulnerable for instant KOs. Plus, it's great when dealing with those enemies that like to shield themselves. The Kung Fu/Ninja and Robin Hood costumes are also great for dealing with enemies with a ton of health. And lastly, enemies can instantly die if you knock them into water or pits, as well as leading them into the purple UV lights, which is what makes mubber dissolve. Enemies also chase you if you're on the same landing as them, and I did notice that some can turn invisible if you progress further, as seen here. The first two enemies in the game are the rats and spiders. These two are the smallest enemies that you'll encounter. The rats first appear in Monstrous Fright and Magic, giving Velma trouble, while the spiders can be seen in Chinatown, and then they both show up in every level after that. The rats will scratch you while the spiders bite. The difference between the two is that the spider has a little bit more health than the rat. Both are super easy to take down. The rats can even come out of these little mouse holes when you see these brown mice run into them, and the spiders can dangle down from a web. And yes, they can still attack you but are super vulnerable, meaning you can take them out in one hit before they come down. Both of these enemies can even come out of breakable objects throughout the game. Also want to show you that you can see the spiders without the mubber layer in the boss fight against the Guitar Ghoul, where you gotta fling the spiders at him to do damage, and these ones can be defeated in one hit. Now we're on to the main enemies, and rather than talking about each one individually, I'm just going to mention all three of the monsters from each area. starting with the ones in Chinatown. First is the Chinese zombie, located in the cookie factory and sewer. If you thought this zombie looked familiar, then you'd be right, because he looks like the scare pair from the episode Mystery Mask Mix-Up from the Scooby Doo Where Are You show. And Zentuo is also a recurring villain from that episode. The zombie will do a stomp shockwave and breathe out toxic breath when you're too close. All in all, not very difficult. The next two enemies who are original are the Kung Fu Maiden found in the sewer and temple, and the ninja who you first meet at the temple and can be seen again when you return to Monsters Fright and Magic to confront Mr. Stanton. These two enemies are super agile. The maiden will use her hair like a whip, and the ninja throws shurikens, and they can both kick you as well as leap away if you hover around too close. They're not super tough. If you attack them rapidly and use strong attacks, they won't be much of a problem. Now's a good time to mention that each of these enemies also have elite versions, which just have more HP, and you can tell by their color swaps. The zombie is colored green, ninjas are red, and the maidens are wearing purple. Also in the game, there are these traps, and when you go in their vicinity, they go off, and if you're too close, you will get damaged. Chinatown's Cookie Factory and Temple have the Chinese zombie hiding behind a door. Throughout the theme park, you'll find Jack-in-the-Boxes, and the dinosaur exhibit at the museum has a Venus flytrap. Pretty interesting traps, but the music sort of gives them away, and once you replay the game a few times, you'll know exactly where they are. The Guitar Ghouls theme park is our next stop, and the levels in this place are really good. It reminds me of First Frights, where the second area of the game is this massive cool theme park with killer robots, and here it's much the same. We have the fire-breathing groupie at the haunted house and water park, and the circus strongman in the water park and circus tent. The groupie will breathe fire at you from her torch, and the strongman will use his cymbals as a ground pound shockwave. They will hit you when you get too close, and these two really like to shield themselves, which can get pretty annoying. They take quite a few regular hits, but as mentioned earlier, strong attacks are really useful against them. The elite fire groupies only at the water park have dark gray hair, and the elite strongmen have blue pants. The juggling clown in the circus tent is the last foe here, and yes, he is the ghost clown from Bedlam in the Big Top. The clown is an agile enemy like the ninja. He can throw microphones at you, whack you over the head, and leap away. I found him to be a bit too slow, making him the easiest enemy here. There's only a one elite version wearing purple by the end of the level, and he's not much of a threat here, as you'll probably yeet him off the edge. The museum is another great location with really cool platforming levels and set pieces. Over at the Dinosaur and Undersea exhibit, you'll come across the Pterodactyl, who is the pterodactyl ghost from the Scooby Doo show. They will pretty much charge towards and bite you, although in some clips they kind of have bad aim as seen here when I'm standing completely still. They will also use their wings to become invincible. Then at the medieval exhibit, you'll run into the Black Knight, who I'm already very familiar with. The Black Knight will do stomp shockwaves and can hit you, and he too will use his shield to stay invincible. Both of these two can be seen emerging from these certain entrances, and they both don't stand a chance against Scooby's Robin Hood costume. The last enemy of this area, who's only found in the Undersea exhibit, is the 10,000 volt ghost from the Scooby Doo show. You only encounter 4 of them, and they pop out of these generator stands. These guys can shoot lightning bolts at you, do shockwave stomps, and can even launch themselves at you. Since they're electrified, you can't touch them, so you'll have to shoot them with plungers as Robin Hood Scooby. And yeah, these guys are incredibly easy to take down, because all you need to do is rapidly shoot them right away when they spawn. The final two enemies in the game are actually just elite versions of the Pterodactyl and Black Knight, but since they work a little differently and encounter them by the end of the game and return to Monsters Fright and Magic, I figured I'd give them a separate section. And sadly, the 10,000 volt Ghost is the only enemy that actually does not have an elite version. These two have even more health than their normal counterparts, and have some unique attacks. The Pterodactyl, who is orange here, can breathe out fire, and you do see these guys in this one gliding section of the dinosaur exhibit back at the museum. The elite Black Knight, who has a skeletal face which looks like the Chinese zombie's face, is a very strong enemy. Same attacks, but when they shield themselves, they emit an electric force field which can damage you. On top of that, they are immune to normal attacks, which means you'll have to use your strong attacks, or just find the Kung Fu / Ninja costume. You actually see these guys in the cutscene when you first explore MFM, where Scooby is cornered and then gets saved by the owners.
Dinosaur attack! Help! Help! Scooby-Doo! Scooby-Doo!
Well everyone, there you have it. Those are pretty much all the enemies in Scooby Doo Unmasked. Yeah, I know. I figured this review would be a quick one. What's also neat about this game is that throughout each level you'll find a random trap piece. Now I do know that in the DS game you actually needed these to face the boss. However, in the console version, if you go to the mystery machine, the trap piece allows you to see the three main monsters of that area with the boss, which is really neat. That's one thing I like about all these Scooby-Doo games, is how you can view the monsters you encounter, which makes it feel like one big case file. In here you can see their attacks, description of what they're supposed to be for, and difficulty. But let's be honest, these guys aren't very difficult in the slightest after the first playthrough. Another thing I did notice while playing the game a few times is that the enemies can actually damage each other. The enemies with projectiles can hit other enemies, and in the very last level where you see Jed trapped in this costume, the enemies ended up having very little health from the Black Knight's attacks. I'll let you guys have a look. Pretty cool detail in the game, but that's pretty much it. I never grew up playing this game as a kid, and it is a fun Scooby-Doo game, albeit a very short one. It's one of those games that's really good, but short and sweet to enjoy. The enemies are really cool, and it's great that some recognizable monsters from the previous shows are here. Most of the time though, no matter how tough the enemy is, you'll mostly be using your stronger attacks. It reminds me a lot of the Lord of the Rings The Two Towers game, where sure, you have a basic attack to fight hordes of enemies, but you also have a stronger attack that does more damage and can knock them off their feet. The enemies can feel the same, but a lot of Scooby-Doo games are like that, where you fight enemies that feel very similar. I find that this game does focus a lot on combat than the previous games. In Night of 100 Frights, you have blind enemies, ones that chase you, you've got bigger enemies that take 2 hits to take down, and monsters can pop out of closets or bushes, which is a way better jump scare than this. And your means of fighting back are with the helmet and super slam. In Mystery Mayhem, you mainly use the book to suck up all the ghosts while dodging their last-ditch attacks. I do like how, similar to these last two games, they do introduce a tougher enemy in the last area of the game, but to be honest, I do find the enemies that shield themselves to be very annoying. And I would say that the enemies in the Chinatown levels are probably the most well-balanced enemies, but can still pose a threat when fighting them in groups. The next thing to do would probably be talking about this game's bosses, which are the main highlights, but I think I'll save that for another time, because right now, I have loads of other games I want to talk about and need to go through. Thank you so much for watching, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next review. Goodbye.
Return to your positions. Increase security. Understood. Reinforcements are on the way to Strut F. Intensify the level of security.